It is never too early for NFL draft content right here on Steelers Talk. So on today's show, we're going to be breaking down Mel Kiper Jr.'s list of the top 10 Steelers draft targets in round one of the 2024 NFL Draft. Before we get into Mel's list here in just a second, do me a favor and click that subscribe button. Join our family here at Steelers Talk. If you're interested in Steelers draft coverage all offseason long, we're going to be having the latest Steelers draft rumors pretty much every single day here on the channel, letting you guys know who the Steelers are targeting, who they're interviewing with, who they're bringing in for visits, all that good stuff. Also, we're going to be having our very own in-depth prospect analysis, my scouting reports on all the top prospects in this year's NFL draft class. And then also weekly Steelers mock drafts are going to be a regular thing here on the channel. So if you like Steelers mock drafts, you like Steelers draft content, this is going to be the place for you this offseason. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now. So right now the Steelers currently hold the 17th overall draft slot in the 2024 NFL Draft. Now I know that some Steelers fans out there are saying, let's lose the final two games to the Seahawks and the Ravens so we can get a better draft slot. And although I understand why people say that, I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm still in winning mode here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I still want them to make the playoffs. And right now I'm not too worried about draft positioning as we stand here today. But something to keep in mind before we get into this list here is the team needs that the Pittsburgh Steelers will likely have as they approach the 2024 NFL Draft. They're going to need another offensive tackle, Dan Moore Jr., Chukwuma Okorafor. Those guys are the past. Broderick Jones, and then probably another rookie coming in next year. That's going to be the future. And then also you need to replace Mason Cole at center. You need a cornerback, probably another nickel cornerback as well, so you can definitely fill up the ranks there in the secondary. Wide receiver, you probably want one other player to go along with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Safety, you want probably somebody else to go alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick moving forward. DeMonte KZ and Keanu Neal aren't exactly high-end options at the strong safety position. And then maybe also quarterback. I'm not super into drafting a quarterback next year because I still think the Steelers are in win-now mode with T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and Minkah Fitzpatrick and all these guys that they have currently on the roster. I think they're more likely to bring in a veteran than draft a quarterback, but it's also worth noting that quarterback could be on the table here for the black and gold as we approach the 2024 draft. All right, so let's get into this top 10 list here where Mel Kiper Jr. starts with Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle out of the University of Arizona here. Number 24 on his big board, and this is the number 10 option on his list, just so you guys know we're going from 10 to 1 on today's show. So this is what Mel had to say about Jordan Morgan, the tackle from the Wildcats there. He says, I wrote about Morgan before the season, picking him as a prospect who could rise if he shows he's healthy. Well, he's looked great during the regular season. After tearing the ACL in his right knee last November, he rehabbed in the spring to get ready and was able to return for week one. He continues to say here, his footwork is terrific in pass protection, and I love his ease of movement and ability to bend. Morgan stays active with his hands, and he can get to the next level on combo blocks. He handles twists really well and can deal with inside and outside moves with ease. Now, my opinion on Jordan Morgan here is that I think that there's definitely some higher level physical prospects in this year's draft class, but he's definitely a technician. He's somebody that can protect the quarterback. Like Mel says, with ease, he's somebody that can handle twists and stunts, which is something you want to see. And he's somebody that I think the Steelers will definitely be considering in the first round, especially if they continue to win football games here down the stretch. Now he gets to number 9 on his list of Steelers draft targets here, starting with Kamari. Lassiter, cornerback out of the University of Georgia, and we know how much Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan love to draft their Georgia Bulldogs. He's currently ranked number 23 on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board, and this is what Mel has to say about Lassiter's game. Lassiter has emerged as a lockdown corner for the Bulldogs this season. He's a tough, aggressive, hard-nosed defensive back who enjoys the challenge of being out on an island and going against top receivers. Sounds like a Pittsburgh Steeler to me. He has not allowed a single touchdown as the nearest defender in coverage this season, and even when he gets beat, he doesn't allow big plays. Lassiter doesn't have an interception over the past 2 seasons, but he has the instincts to turn and locate the ball to create a pass breakup. I think interceptions will come in time. He has taken his performance to an All-American level this season and could be a mid-first round pick. And then speaking to Georgia Bulldogs here, Mel has another one here at number 8 on his list with offensive tackle Amarius Mims. Of course, the Steelers took Georgia Bulldog tackle Broderick Jones last year. Could they take another Bulldog tackle here in the first round next year? This is what Kiper has to say about Mims. I include Mims in my preseason big board even after he had only started 2 college games because of the talent I saw in his minimal playing time and because of how college coaches and NFL front offices execs talked him up. Mims hasn't disappointed, though he got off to a slow start because of the ankle injury that he has seen him only play in 5 games in 2023. Continues to say if you could draw up the perfect right tackle prospect, it would be Mims, who is light on his feet and can deliver a jolt in run-blocking situations. He was incredibly impressive against Georgia Tech, showing off his upside, though he has started just 8 career games. I feel good about putting him in the round 1 discussion. And I really like Amarius Mims' game as well, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to like his game as well, especially if the plan is to move Broderick Jones back over to the left side. They've been playing Broderick on the right side this season. And if you get Amarius Mims, he's more of a natural right tackle. Now, I think Broderick and Mims are more kind of run-blocking type of tackles, less in terms of pass protection. But if you can put these 2 Bulldogs on either end of your offensive line, I think that would absolutely work. And then even if you go and get a guy like Lassiter, the cornerback that we talked about just a couple of minutes ago, I think that it would be an excellent fit with what the Pittsburgh Steelers want to do here defensively. So I really think that, if you want to look for players that are more likely to get drafted by the Steelers, I would look at the Georgia Bulldogs first and foremost. So let me know down there in the comments section. Pick a Georgia Bulldog that you think or that you would pick to be the first-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024. Type Kamari, type KL for Kamari Lassiter, or type AM for Amarius Mims down there in the comments section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Then we get to the Crimson Tide here at number 7, and it's one of the more popular names in Steelers Twitter right now when it comes to draft prospects, and for good reason. One of the all-time great names here, Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback out of the University of Alabama. This is what Mel has to say about Kool-Aid. McKinstry has great length and impressive recovery speed, but I want to see him improve on his on-ball production. He has just 2 picks over the past 3 seasons, though he did break up 14 passes last year. I see good anticipation and coverage when I watch his tape, and we know Nick Saban knows how to coach up defensive backs. McKinstry is getting more matchups with stellar receivers in the SEC, so we won't be able to say he's untested. And the way that I feel about Kool-Aid McKinstry is I would love to have him in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. I'd be cool with Lassiter, the kid out of Georgia, as well. They're both really good in press man coverage, but Kool-Aid McKinstry, man, that recovery speed and length that he has gives him the advantage over Lassiter, in my opinion. He is an excellent, excellent prospect, and I'd love to have him in the black and gold alongside Joey Porter Jr. So coming up here on Steelers Talk, we got more Mel Kiper Jr. draft targets for your Pittsburgh Steelers. But before I get into the rest of today's list, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you want to spice up your game days this NFL season, you can get started with PrizePicks, which is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. You might be asking yourselves, how does it work? Well, here's how. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So you can take a look at my entry for this weekend's game against the Seahawks here. I'm going to take the less on Geno Smith passing yards. I think this defense is going to do a good job against the Seahawks offense this week. I'm going to take the more on George Pickens after his bounce-back game last week against Cincinnati. And then I'll take the less on DK Metcalf receiving yards with Joey Porter Jr. draped all over him. You can get your picks in now before we kick things off on Sunday by checking it out at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. With PrizePicks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right now. Get those picks in before Sunday's matchup. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Sticking with the Alabama Crimson Tide here is Mel Kiper Jr. Once again, going to the offensive tackle well here with J.C. Latham. Just an absolutely huge human being here. Number 20 on his big board. This is what Kiper has to say about the behemoth there in Tuscaloosa. Latham is a mountain of an offensive tackle who is light on his feet. I really like the way he explodes out of his stance. He's tough at the point of attack. He blows defenders off the line of scrimmage in the run game, driving and sustaining his blocks in space. Where Latham needs to improve is his technique. He can be sloppy. Latham has started 26 games at right tackle, all 13 this season, but he also played right guard. He'll likely be a right tackle at the next level. And, you talk to some NFL draft scouts around the league and in the media, some will tell you that J.C. Latham is a late first-round talent. Some will tell you he's the number one overall tackle prospect in this year's draft because of those physical tools. He's huge. He's got great athletic promise as well, can really move. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with J.C. Latham. Definitely a high upside type product, but I think there's other offensive tackles that might be more NFL ready in this year's draft class. Sticking with offensive tackles here, Mel likes his tackles class this year. He goes with the Oregon State product, Taliese Fuaga here. Offensive tackle from the Beavers there, number 19 overall on his list. This is what he has to say about the Beaver offensive tackle. Fuaga is a physical right tackle who has started 24 games for the Beavers. He brings a defensive mentality to the position. The defender he's matching up with better be fully prepared for a battle in the trenches. He is the ultimate finisher as a run blocker, getting easy movement, and he more than holds his own in pass protection. He allowed just one sack over the past 2 seasons. He has powerful hands and can handle secondary moves from edge rushers. The more I watched Fuaga this season, the more excited I was about his future in the NFL. He is still a work in progress and has yet to reach his full potential. And I think if the Steelers want to go get a right tackle, I think that Fuaga is a really good prospect to look at. I think that he's very polished in pass protection. He's not all the way there yet, in my opinion. He's not a complete prospect, but that's a little bit exciting because he could get even better when he gets to the National Football League level. Again, I think with the Steelers potentially looking for a right tackle to move Broderick Jones back over to the left side, I think Fuaga is definitely somebody you need to keep your eye on. All right, now let's get to one of my favorite prospects here for the Steelers to potentially go target here in this year's draft class. Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson, number 18 on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board, and this is what Mel has to say about Wiggins. Clemson has had a disappointing season, but Wiggins stands out all over the Tigers' defensive tape. He has been impressive despite missing 2 games with an injury. He allowed 18 catches for 179 yards as the nearest defender in coverage, and 2 of those were turned into touchdowns. He has the length and recovery speed to match up effectively with any wideout he goes up against. Wiggins shows a smooth turning motion, good instincts in coverage, and can make up ground in a hurry while using his height and arm length as a major advantage. And I really love Wiggins' game, man. I think that he is an awesome corner. We talked about with Kool-Aid and McKinstry, that recovery speed. Wiggins is probably even faster, even though he's a bit more slender. He's not quite the presence that Kool-Aid is in the run game. So you can take your pick there in terms of which cornerback that you like better. I honestly would probably want Kool-Aid McKinstry over Wiggins, Nate. But, I mean, let's face it, man. Wiggins is a freaking awesome corner. He's great in coverage. And if he's on the opposite side of Joey Porter Jr. for the next decade, I'm not going to complain one bit. Now we get to a wide receiver, the first one on the list here. Xavier Worthy, kind of a smaller wide receiver out of the University of Texas, is going to be playing in the college football playoff here in a couple of days. Number 17 overall on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board. This is what Mel has to say about the Longhorn product. Worthy is an electric player with the ball in his hands. His quickness and movement in space reminds me a little bit of Marquise Hollywood Brown, who started at Oklahoma and was a first-round pick in 2019. Worthy is tall but very thin. He can fly by cornerbacks on vertical routes and take the top off the defense. His biggest problem last season, catching the ball. He had 10 drops in 2022. He also dealt with a hand injury, to be fair, but he has been more consistent this season with 5 on 114 targets. Worthy also could be a dynamic punt returner at the next level. And, I'm not sold on Worthy's fit here in Pittsburgh. You got Deontay Johnson, you got George Pickens, and you have Calvin Austin III to kind of fill this type of role on the Steelers offense, kind of that guy to take the top off the defense, special teams guy for punt returns. Not sure if Worthy is worth, no pun intended there, of being taken here in the first round by the Pittsburgh Steelers with all this other stuff that they need to address. And then we get to the last 2 names here on the list already. Troy Fautanu here, the offensive lineman out of the Washington Huskies, number 14 overall on his big board this year. And this is what Kiper has to say about Fautanu. Fotano really impressed me this season. He played 114 snaps at guard over the past 3 years, but the majority of his time has been at left tackle, where he has allowed just 2 sacks and 24 total pressures in 29 starts. That's one more than 1,900 snaps. He kept the pocket clean for quarterback Michael Penix Jr., who has been sacked just 10 times in 13 games. I see Fotano's future at guard as a way to best maximize his skill set, but I'm not ruling out that he'll end up at tackle. He reminds me a little bit of Elijah Vera Tucker, who went number 14 overall to the Jets in 2021. And Fotano's game is definitely one that's based on versatility. And that really makes an offensive lineman extremely valuable, which is why I think Fotano will end up being a first-round pick this year. He can play tackle. He can play guard. Who knows? He could even move over and play center, especially if he's being compared to Elijah Vera Tucker, who has been absolutely fantastic since being drafted by the Jets a couple of seasons back. And then when it comes to the number one player here, so Mel kind of took off the top 10 players on his big board here, but he has Cooper DeJean here, number 1 overall on the Steelers draft targets list here, number 13 overall on his big board. And listen, if you were somebody that really liked Brian Branch out of the Alabama Crimson Tide last year, versatile chess piece defensively, you are going to love you some Cooper DeJean. This is what Mel Kiper Jr. has to say about the Iowa Hawkeye. Iowa's defense produced 2 first-round picks, Lucas Van Ness and Jack Campbell, and third-rounder Riley Moss in the 2023 draft, and yet it was DeJean who kept catching my eye when I went back through the 2022 film. He had 5 interceptions, including 3 that he returned for touchdowns. I was impressed with his technique on a snap-to-snap basis. He played in the slot and out wide, showing off tremendous speed to stick with receivers. He's just silly as a cover man. DeJean has the physical tools to be the top corner in this class, but unfortunately his season ended early because of a lower leg injury he suffered in practice in mid-November. Now, it was definitely a shame when DeJean went down with that injury earlier this season, but you look at his game, I mean, he could even play safety, man. This guy is extremely versatile. He is kind of the Brian Branch type of player in this year's draft class, and with the way that Branch has panned out with the Detroit Lions this year, I would be shocked if Cooper DeJean is not a first-round pick this year, if not even the first cornerback taken because of his ability to run. I would be surprised if he runs anything above a 4.4. I think he's super fast, great in coverage, great versatility. He's the complete package, and if he becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler, goes from the Iowa Hawkeyes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think he'd be a fantastic player right out of the box. Now, shout out your guy down there in the comment section. Who would you like the Steelers who would you like to see the Steelers take in round 1 of the 2024 NFL Draft? Is it a quarterback? Is it somebody that Mel did not name on his top 10 list? Let me know down there in the comment section who you want the black and gold to take in round 1. Thanks for stopping by today, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button for more Steelers draft coverage throughout the 2024 offseason. We're going to be going into major depth here, going over scouting reports, every single position, the players that you need to be watching out for here if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So do me a favor right now, click that subscribe button.